Hey everyone, it's Jason, and today I want to introduce a new feature on my channel. I hope it's going to become something recurring, and it's called Photo of the Week. It's something I want to do because I want to make sure this channel doesn't become too gear-oriented. I actually want to talk about photography once in a while, right? Anyway, in this series, what I want to do is choose one photo I've taken in the last week, one of my favorite photos, and talk a little bit about it. Give you a brief backstory and tell you 3 things about the photo. Why 3? Well, because I want to keep the format concise, and you know I like to keep my videos concise. And those 3 things will be 2 post-processing choices and 1 thing I think makes the photo stand out. And I think that's important because, relatively speaking, it's kind of straightforward. Maybe not too straightforward, but straightforward to learn composition and basics of cameras and gear. But we're all kind of looking for that one thing that really makes a photo stand out. And I think that's important to focus on. So without further ado, here's the photo I've chosen for this week. I actually think I took this photo a little bit longer than a week ago because, well, I actually intended to start this video last week, but I recorded it and I didn't like it, so I'm recording it again. Anyway, this photo is of a deer. Backstory: the deer is not actually shorter than the grass. The grass is just on a hill and the deer is slightly on the other side of a small, very small hill. And that is why it is sort of looking like it's smaller than the grass, but it creates a fairly cool pattern anyway. And this is actually a precious moment to me because this is one of the last times I was able to go out before snow. And I don't like snow. Anyway, it wasn't too cold and I saw these deer all over the place. And these 3 or 4 deer were kind of over that hill I was talking about. They were far away. But one was just close enough to get this shot. It wasn't too much of a crop. Okay, so let's talk about the 3 things I mentioned. First, post-processing choice. There are some areas in the grass here where the bokeh looked a little bit rough. And you guys know from my Darktable videos that I love to use the contrast equalizer. And the contrast equalizer is such a powerful tool. So I used that tool to sort of soften some of the roughness of the bokeh. Here you can see, look at this roughness. I'll just show you one example. This is with the contrast equalizer off, and this is with the contrast equalizer on. So just to get rid of that little bit of roughness in the bokeh, I use the contrast equalizer. And I think that takes away some of the emphasis from that bokeh, makes it look a little bit smoother. Second post-processing choice. You notice that this is almost a silhouette. I decided not to make it a silhouette. It might be tempting to do so because this photo is very sort of simple and it's backlit and it's geometric, but I don't think it would have worked as well as a silhouette. I prefer to see a little bit of detail here still because it's not really a strongly backlit shot, and in real life, I could definitely see some features of the deer, and I think it adds a little bit of interest and mystery just to see a little bit. Maybe it gives you a hint of the sort of character of the animal better than a silhouette. In this case, there are some cases where silhouettes work better, but I think in this case, an almost silhouette works better than a silhouette. So that was the other post-processing choice. And finally, what makes this photo sort of stand out to me? It's the tail. Look at the tail of the deer. The rest of the deer has a smooth outline. The tail is a little bit bushy. It's in a cool position. It really adds to the shape of the deer. And I really think this is sort of like portrait photography when you're taking portraits of people. I think that, it's so important to get the subtleness of the pose. Poses can be so subtle, right? And just to get that little bit of subtlety just right really changes something. Just slight movements of your subject can make a boring photo into an interesting photo. And those are the things that are really important in animal photography too. And I think this photo definitely wouldn't have been as nice if the tail weren't sort of sticking out horizontally like this. And that's the one little thing that I think really adds the final touch that sort of makes this photo much better than it would have been if the tail were in a different position. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this new series of mine where I choose one of my favorite photos that I've taken in the past week and explain a little bit about it, post-processing, and some of the artistic qualities of it. And hopefully, I'll make another one next time. And in any case, I will. See you again next time.